I'm Hannah Wallace and welcome to FinextraTV. Calling into our virtual studio today is Thomas Halpin, Managing Director, Global Head of Payments Product Management, Global Liquidity and Cash Management, HSBC. And we also have Michel Vaja, Payment Services for Icon Solutions. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for calling in. It's good to have you on.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Hannah.
Today we're speaking off the back of your recent report that looks at expectation versus reality for payments data, monetization and identifying the data-led services corporates want. So a really interesting topic. So firstly, could you set the scene by explaining to our audience then what payments data monetization is and why investment is growing to support services for corporate clients? And Michel, we'll come to you first.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Hannah. There are a lot of definition and it's a broad concept in the end, but when we talk about data monetization, it's really about the use cases where the information in relation to payments is being leveraged, sometimes with additional sources to actually deliver value to the bank, but not only to the bank, to its customers as well. As opposed to, I would say reselling the raw data from the bank, which has always been seen as a very risk area where banks are not willing for privacy reasons to do so. I think now why it is growing. I think the reports tell us a few interesting points there. One being that 38% of the respondents have actually positioned data monetization on top of their list of drivers for their payment strategic transformation. And if you compare that number to the number we got in 2019, that was 19%. You clearly see that there is a growing appetite for this topic. Now, what are the reasons for that? It's a combination of factors, probably three in the end. The first one being that we've got now a very strong regulatory framework in place with GDPR and the various data privacy initiatives across the globe. We've got a very strong and proven format, with ISO 20022 being more and more adopted by the community. But more importantly, what I would call the missing link is that we are not now seeing, thanks to COVID, I would not say it that way, but because of the whole pandemic situation, we are seeing a major increase of digital payments transaction. So digital payments are more and more being adopted by both consumers and banks' corporate customers as well. So which leads to more data for the bank to actually exploit, which mechanically leads to more opportunities.
All right, thank you very much for setting the scene there. And Thomas, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, if I could jump in, and Michel, I totally agree with the way you framed it in terms of the drivers. I think the regulatory scene has been set in an increasing payment transparency, and banks have invested in that, as have others. In addition, we're in the middle of a transformation event where payment language is changing, going from one format now going into ISO, which is a globally consistent standard. If you take the combination of those two events, what it's actually created for the industry is a wealth of data that can be monetized, that can be leading into transformational events going from reporting to insights. So I think what you are seeing in the industry right now and why it's being so exciting is because we've invested in a lot of the core infrastructure events that the regulators have driven or schemes have driven. And now it's how do you create the value added services on top of that to solve and help customers with friction points.
All right. So Thomas, how does this translate then into revenue opportunities for banks? And does the expectation that corporates will pay for these services match with the reality? What about that?
Well, I think it's an interesting question. It always comes down to, right, that a lot of people ask. So how do you take this event and whether or not it creates a material event for you from a revenue generation perspective? I think that's one of the areas that the question is about. And I think it actually has to be addressed in multiple ways. Not all monetization events are considered equal. I think you'll see some becoming a standard core hygiene event of what you need to provide back to the customers. And there's a base level of expectation about what will be available. But I think where you'll see the separation is as you focus on solving client friction points, pain points that actually create value for them beyond the physical payment activity, that's where I think you'll be able to see some revenue generation. And I do believe that if you can articulate back to the customer how this is helping them run their business more effectively, how this is protecting them, whether it be from fraud, let's say, because now you could do pre-validation, or you could tell them about their buyers' behaviors and characteristics and how their performance is working compared to others as a benchmarking. And if you also couple it with third-party data, it's just not simply the payment data. By having that information, you could then bring it and marry it to other things. So if you think about some of the ESG events that are happening in the space, right? The payment data could actually allow you to work into those areas as well to say, hey, are you dealing with counterparts that share this strategy and are looking at ESG activities? There's a lot of different ways that you could leverage the data. And I think once you do that, then customers are willing to pay for value. What they're not willing to do is pay for things that don't create or solve their pain points or solve friction points. So I do think there's a monetization opportunity for the industry.
Mm-hmm. All right, pretty positive standpoint there. It's interesting what you say about the ESG activities. Michel, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, totally agree with Tom's point here. I think the biggest surprise from the survey and the report we published was that while most of the banks were thinking that a product strategy around products like virtual account, like any fancy products that came up from the product management team on the bank side haven't proven to be actually product that corporate customer were willing to pay for. And I think it's what the report says that is it's acting as a big reminder to the banking industry that clients are first, client expectations and requirements are first. And there is a little bit of irony actually thinking about where banks have been invested the last 10 to 20 years around customer centricity. I think that report is acting as a reminder that customer centricity is about better serving and better helping and addressing real customer pain points and challenges. I think that's what the report says. And I think we've realized that 69% of the corporate would actually be considered to move and change banking partner that in case they found one providing more efficient operational efficiency through their product and services, which is a clear indicator that there is a customer churn challenge on that specific topic.
Mm-hmm. All right, so taking all of that into account, then how can banks then develop a strategy around payments data and monetization, and what sort of challenges do you think need to be overcome to move forward? Michel, you go first.
Thank you, Anna. Yes, sure. Listen, I would tell the banks, come and speak with us, right? Because we've been helping organizations the last 10 years with their payment transformation journey. But no, more seriously, joke apart. I think the first thing banks need to understand is that it's not an option. It's not about should I or shouldn't I. I think it's really about how to actually mobilize a global organization to actually support this initiative. Because back to what Tom said about, it's not just about leveraging the payment data, it's about combining the data with various sources of data coming from various departments of the banks. That's how you generate, insight, advices, and value for your customers. So what does that mean is that for the bank, it should be an enterprise-led initiative. It should be about mobilizing the organization right from the top up, up to the team that will actually deliver the work. I think it's all about clarifying a vision around what it is, the global enterprise data strategy for the bank as well. That's the sort of things I would encourage the bank to look at.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Thomas, any final comments you'd like to add there?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things, if I can just expand on Michel's comments a little bit. I think one of the things, and I'll give an example from an HSBC perspective, if I can, is that I totally agree that we have in the value-added services. One of the things, and I think the report, and we were very happy by seeing it, supported the position, is that we've invested a lot in the last year or so into the liquidity portal to help our customers better understand their working capital position, better understand what type of proactive decisions we can be presenting them with or opportunities for them to look at. We've seen great take up in that because it's taking something that customers don't want to report. They want insights. They want actionable intelligence so that they can move forward. And a lot of the strategies and the things that we've been investing in go down that path because they can get a lot of reports from their own internal systems. It's the question of whether or not they have the ability and through their own internal tools to have actionable intelligence, to have insights. And because of who we are and the breadth of data that we have available, we can give them a wider view of the world as opposed to the presence of their own data. So we can, to Michel's point, couple it with other things and make it actionable. And even going back to the latter question that we had about revenue generation, Michel, I agree with you. Customers will make switching decisions, but guess what? While they may not be paying for it, that is actually part of paying for it, right? And from a different perspective, because the banks that provide that, or the providers, I don't want to say banks because we know there's a lot of people in this space looking at how to use it, right? And that's part of what I think motivates us and accelerates us to providing propositions and solutions for our customers. But the ones who do that will actually pick up more volume, more transactional information, more deposits, right? So you could look at how does revenue or monetization happen? You could think of it as a new pricing streams, and there will be some components from that, but there will also be an aggregation into the banks and the providers who do this best. And that's what we're focusing on because we want to simplify the experience for our customers and the journeys by giving them these tools and then compete on value-added services. So I think this is a great opportunity and time to leverage all the investments that have been made in this space has been mandated.
So watch this space. A good summary there and some good advice weaved into a final response as well. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I urge our audience wanting to learn more to go to the report and give it a download. But for now, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for calling in and sharing your insights today.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you, Hannah.